Today I'm speaking with a mother of 9 children who also has multiple grandchildren and a passion for helping younger mothers navigate the challenges of raising a family. Pam Fields is from Oregon and now lives in Tennessee. She was trained as a dental technician, but her true passion was found in being a mom. As a mother, she also ran a homeschooling association for 10 years. She considers her platform to be a digital missions field where Pam can impact the lives of mothers all over the country, if not the world. Pam was 48 when she became a grandmother, and that's when her daughter's friends turned to Pam for advice. So she started a blog to answer basic motherhood questions. She also offers advice on things like canning, sewing, and craft projects. After turning 50, Pam started a Facebook group for mothers, as well as a podcast called Mom Next Door, Stories of Faith. To tell us how she started her online ministry and how it is changing the lives of younger mothers, please welcome Pam Fields to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Pam. I appreciate your time. So I understand you are like the mom next door to all these moms. How did you get interested in being a shepherd to women, especially mothers?
It's funny, I've gotten this title of the mom next door, and I think that wasn't my intention, but it's fallen there, and it's fun. I am a large family mama. I've got 9 children from the ages of 28 down to 11, and my oldest grandchild is 8. We've just rolled right from parenting into grandparenting. Our house is always filled, always a place of activity, and I just have a heart for moms. I know what it's like to have your hands full as well as your heart full simultaneously. It's a lot to juggle. For a lot of us moms, it's something new. It was something where I struggled with motherhood a lot in my early years, not having the role models that I needed to be able to replicate in my own life. And yeah, I love being able to connect with moms online. In the digital world, I feel like it's a great mission field, a ministry center, to meet mamas where they are and be able to encourage them and meet them with resources for tools for their life.
I applaud you for that. There's no harder job than being a mother, and it just keeps getting worse and worse as they're pulled into many different directions. And the demands on them are unfair in many ways, and so they're looking for that kind of support that you've had.
Yeah.
What did you do before you turned 50?
Motherhood has been my largest gig, but before I became a mom, I was a dental assistant. So I had a very short-lived run, about 4 years of being a dental assistant up until the day before my oldest was born. And then I've just been momming hard, a homeschool mom. I ran a homeschool association for 10 years, and I also ran some mothering retreats where I'd bring in a speaker. When we were living in Oregon, I would bring in a speaker. She'd come in and speak about motherhood, and I would facilitate the retreat. So that is one of the things that I had been doing for the most part of my life. About the time I turned 48, I think it was 48, I became a grandma. And so some of my daughter's friends, they all started to say, "You've raised a lot of children. You should tell us what to do." And my thought was, how do I do that? So one of them suggested I start a blog. So there I am Googling what is a blog. Been a little too busy to be able to spend time like immersed in that type of a culture. So after I figured out what it was, there was a young mama who decided to set up a website, a blog for me. And I started to deposit some little articles about parenting there. And then that rolled into a mommy's group on Facebook when COVID hit. And it was my area that I've been living for a long time. Children under the feet, homeschooling, and there was a lot of moms panic. What do I do now? So I wasn't quite 50, but I was a grandma and very close to 50 when I started an online ministry to moms and also a podcast for moms.
You're also involved in some homesteading features as well. You have always had a lifelong passion for sewing and craft projects, and you've taken up canning too. So those are things that a lot of people are taking an interest in this year.
That's true. It is. It's something I wasn't raised. I started sewing when I was in 3rd grade. So I did grow up sewing and had an interest in that. It was always just like a fun creativity thing and a money saver back in the day when we could go buy fabric and make our own clothes. Now that's a little different these days as the fast fashion has come in. It's not always cheaper to make your own clothes. I'm a little too busy for that now. My mother-in-law did teach me to can when I got married. And so that has been very fun. And I guess in a way, a creative expression as well. My children will not eat spaghetti sauce from any tin can, only my home canned spaghetti sauce.
That's a upvote for mom's home cooking. If starting a blog was a challenge for you, you must have been way over the top when you decided to start a podcast.
100% over my head. I probably should have done a little research. I probably should have studied up before I did it. But how it happened was this. I'd started the Mommies group on Facebook, and then I had also been a guest on a podcast about prayer, praying for like helping busy moms learn how to pray in our busy lives. This gal that had interviewed me had done the COVID clean out, and she sent me a message, said, "Give me your address. I'm sending you a microphone. You need to start your own podcast." And I told my husband how humorous this was. I said, "There's no way." He said, "No, you should do it." And I thought, that means I'm going to be asking for help. Before that time, I'd only used my computer for Facebook, for responding to emails, and then maybe going online to sign up for like swimming lessons or some sort of little class for my children. I really hadn't used the computer much. And so my husband said, "We've got a kid home from college, thanks to the school shutting down. He can set it up. He'll get it going. Why don't you just start the podcast?" And so we did. He sat next to me and showed me which buttons to push. And I had my first interview, my second interview, and he would come to my house, and this college son, he'd come to the house and he edited the first one. And then he was showing me a little bit of the process. Then God decided to move us from Oregon to Tennessee. And this son was staying in Oregon for college. So mom had to get a real fast lesson on how to edit and do all the things needed for a podcast. Yeah, I was not prepared for that. I did not really know what I'm doing, but I feel like it's been one of those things where you just take the next step forward and you ask somebody for help. You find somebody who's a little further down the road from you, and you just really keep walking forward little by little, adding to your skill set.
What's your podcast name?
It is The Mom Next Door, Stories of Faith.
And what's it all about?
I love the connection and community that I build with other mamas. Mm-hmm. And so really, I just sit down. It started with my neighbors, and I invited people that I knew through my circles, my children's circles of friends. And I said, "Would you sit down and tell me what God has done in your life? Tell me a little bit about your story. And I'm going to record it." And they decided to do it with me. I was so excited. So anyway, that's just progressed. Now I'm still interviewing people that I meet in my town. And then also sometimes authors. They have books that are related faith journey. And so I will interview them. And the topics could be all over the place, like miscarriage, stillborn children, parenting issues, homeschooling issues, could be walking through it with a child with special needs or a terminal illness. So really all over the board. And my thought is that there's somebody out there that needs to hear about what God has done, even if their circumstances are different. If we watch and see how God has carried somebody else through, we are reminded of his power and his ability to walk with us. And so I don't limit the topics really. And if it's not for me, I have a friend who's struggling with something, and I can send her the episode and be like, "I think this might be a blessing to you right now."
So basically you're interviewing other women all the time?
Yeah.
You're not doing teaching on your own?
Yeah, I'm pretty much interviewing other ladies, and at some point I will probably step into more of a teaching mode. I have spoken at a few moms groups in my area specific to busy moms and prayer life or strategies to stay in the Word. amongst your heavy schedule. So that is mostly what I speak to now when I do those teaching type things.
I like that you're teaching or you're interviewing other women, because it's so easy for women to think, I'm all alone in this. I'm the only one who has to deal with that. But when they hear one other woman say that, it's like, that's nice. But when they hear woman after woman, mother after mother saying the exact same thing, that can be super encouraging.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
How many episodes have you done so far?
Ooh, 200 plus. Oh. I don't remember exactly where I am, but I know I passed the 200.
Okay. Is this a weekly thing that you're still producing?
Yes. Every week, if there's something that comes up in my family's life that I'm just not going to make it. I stepped back for 3 months last spring and I said, I'm just going to do it every other week because my family just had a lot of demands on my time. I had a military son who had just returned from a deployment in Syria. And we decided just to throw out the anchor and celebrate a little bit. Family is always going to come first. And this is my hobby, ministry, something I do extra. So the goal is once a week. Yes.
Okay. Very good. Do your kids help you with this?
The one helped me set it up originally. But again, he's still back in Oregon. We're in Tennessee. And I have tried to get my other children to help me. They feel like, that's your thing, Mom. So I do have a daughter-in-law who helps me on my mom's group on Facebook. I have a community that I've built on Facebook. And one of my daughter-in-law is active there to help me out with things. And my daughter, too. I hadn't thought about that. So I do have a little bit of help there, but they're not quite into editing or that type of thing.
Usually the teenage kids can pick up on technology quickly and are able to come in there and just look at it and say, okay, yeah, you need to click here and move this around, and you're able to make it work. So I would think it'd be nice to have a whole house full of technical support experts readily available to help you if you really get into a bind.
And they will. If I have an emergency and I'm really pulling my hair out, I will go grab them and they can help me with the thing. But as a forever thing where they're going to be doing the stuff, not so much. I did have one of my daughters when she was 15. She said, oh, Mom, we should make a reel for your Instagram. What? And I was like, okay, so what do you do? And so she grabbed my phone and I was putting together a crock pot breakfast and she videoed it. And then she pops it up on Instagram. And I had just gotten a new phone. And we thought that there was a problem with it because it just started buzzing and buzzing like the whole night long. And I thought, what?
Oh, no.
And go back to Instagram. And that thing ended up with over 1 million views. And it was like, and I was laughing. My daughter was very proud of herself at 15. I just made a semi-viral reel. I'm so excited. And so that was really fun, yet to be duplicated. Yeah. But it was like her ability to do that. So now I do go on Instagram and I try to create some reels. They are much quicker at it. And again, if I'm stuck, I'm like, how do you make that little sticker thing? And I don't understand when people put posts up and they say, reply here or comment this if whatever. I don't always understand where those messages go. So I'm like, I'm afraid to put that out because somebody's going to write back and then it'll get lost. So they do help me out when there's those things. We also put our family gingerbread house decorating contest on my Instagram every year because I have more people. My children have private accounts. Mine is a public account. And so I have more people. So when we have our competition for gingerbread houses, we put that out for the voting. And whatever the followers vote for is who wins.
Okay. So you're mostly active on Instagram?
Actually, I'm more active on Facebook because that's where my community is. I have a mom's group over there. It's called Tending Fields Moms Group. We're all tending the fields of our home, of marriage, money, ministry, parenting, all the things. We have all these fields in our life. We want to tend them well. And so my mommy's group's on Facebook. I'm very active over there. But I also do have an Instagram called Tending Fields where I'm not tending as well as I could, but I try.
I like it that you are seeing this as a digital ministry. And it's something that anybody can really start if you're over 50 or of any age, but especially for people over 50 who have a lot of knowledge, wisdom, and experience.
Absolutely. And I really wish more people would see that as a space for ministry. I know being online, Facebook, Instagram, all of the socials really get a bad rap, and I understand why. They are time suckers. I agree. I can get drawn in. I can see sometimes other people around me get drawn in, but I would love it if we would take a step back, especially as moms, and say, this is where a lot of young people go. And so rather than abandon it, see it as a place where we can join them. We can meet them on there. And if we can put out our hand of friendship and say, hey, I'm here. I'd love to listen to you. I'd love to support you. What can I do? And so that's what my purpose is on my mommies group, is really to say, hey, do you have a need that you're struggling with right now? Let's talk about laundry. Let's talk about whatever there is. And then we have a prayer day where I just say, hey, share your prayer requests. What's going on? And then I have some older women on that group, and I would love to recruit more older women that can be there and say, hey, I'll join your group. And when a question comes along, I'll share my experience. Sure. I'll pray for that young mama. Sure. And so I think we can claim that territory.
I was going to ask that question. Are the younger mothers open to taking or accepting advice from older moms?
Absolutely, they are. And periodically, I throw this one question out there on the group, and I say, do you have any mentor in your life, or are you just winging it?
Mm-hmm.
And probably 85-90% of the response is, I'm winging it. I sure wish I had somebody. They're longing.
That's incredible. It's one of my pet peeves with the church today is that they seem to segregate people into ages. So when people are over 50, you no longer participate in the family groups because your kids are grown up. So you get ushered into the over 50 groups. And yet it's the younger people who are just over their head, bewildered, who could really benefit from the advice from the older people who've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And so I'm glad to see that you're at least pushing people into that kind of intergenerational communication.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in the Bible, right? They tell us that older people speak into the lives of the younger ones. And I think that the enemy has done a pretty good job of convincing we as older people that we're irrelevant or unnecessary. And I also think that we can sometimes become very self-reflective and we doubt our own ability to speak. I'm in there too sometimes. I think, why would these guys want to listen to me? What do I have to offer? And then if we have areas where we have a personal downfall or we perceive it as a personal downfall, that's another roadblock to wanting to serve. I will tell you right now, I have a prodigal. And often when somebody has a prodigal, you think to yourself, I can't breathe in to somebody else with young children because I don't have a clean slate. I don't have 100% of my children walking with the Lord. And so therefore my voice should be silenced. And we do that to ourselves.
Right.
But we know that God uses imperfect people in imperfect families all over Scripture. And we can teach what the Word of God says, even if our own children have not followed it. We can teach, and sometimes we can share a lot and they can learn a lot from some of our own struggles. So I think that I would love to encourage people to not be silenced, not allow your voice to be silenced simply because you do not live a perfect life. When we have not attained perfection, it just means that we need Jesus, and we can display that to the next generation.
That's very important for people to realize. The imposter syndrome is a horrible thing for people because we have so much natural talent and learned experiences and wisdom that we can share with others, but there's always that thing in our past, that one thing that we hope never comes out and nobody knows about, or we certainly don't ever talk about it. but it's encouraging for people to hear folks struggling with those kinds of things, because the enemy convinces us that we are alone, that we're just beyond help, beyond redemption or anything like that. So to hear people struggling with whatever the problem is, having a prodigal child, who doesn't have a prodigal child, right? And so
it's very common.
Yeah, very good. And how did you overcome that yourself? Having 9 kids makes you an automatic expert on motherhood, I would imagine. But were there ever any issues where you were struggling in being a mom or talking to other moms about their issues and the things that are important to them?
I think that there's always a level of vulnerability that we can only share in certain areas. I'm all about being real and being vulnerable, but yet there also is wisdom in where you share that, right? We don't put everything on Facebook or Instagram. I do say I have a prodigal child, but I'm not naming that child.
Right.
And I'm not sharing the nature of the prodigalness, right? So there's some wisdom in that. And I think that there can be discretion among women as we share our hard stories. It doesn't have to be public, and it doesn't have to even be in a small group of 4 or 6 ladies, right? There can be one-on-one where we share our struggles, and I think it's really good for that. Mm-hmm. But I also think that there's an entry point we have to have. We are never going to be able to get to that point of depth if we don't have a place of meeting to start with. And so, yes, I have been able to meet women on a very superficial level because that's where it starts. Mm-hmm. And then in time, both them and myself will go a little deeper and a little deeper. It's like getting into a swimming pool, right? You don't always jump into the cold water in the 9 foot. You acclimate a little bit and you are surveying your scene and figuring out, is this a relationship where I can share and be vulnerable? And I do think there's a lot of very common things upon or within motherhood. We struggle a lot with, am I doing enough? Yeah. Or are my kids going to turn out? And if they don't turn out, is it my fault? Mm-hmm. We compare ourselves to other moms. And that is one of the downfalls of social media. We're looking at everybody's best day and comparing that with our today, which may not be the best.
Do you offer coaching to women?
That's a funny question because I have been asked that so many times. And I guess the answer is I don't have time in my schedule because I am ministering to my own family and then doing the podcast and my mommy's group on Facebook. I do have a rumbling. I've just actually created a 501c3 for Tending Fields, and it is on the horizon where something like that may be coming, but it would probably look more at this point like a group coaching. Mm-hmm. So I have in the past, through my Facebook group, thrown out an invitation. I said, hey, I'm going to have a Zoom meeting for moms with high schoolers and college-age kids, young adults. If you want to meet and talk serious life things, then join us at this day and time. And I've had really good response of those. I wanted to practice it a little bit on the older moms with teenagers, high schoolers, before I said, we're going to have a preschool mom Zoom meeting because they're so busy juggling everything. I want to work out the kinks of the system in other ways. So it is on my radar. It might be on the horizon, but we go back to how much time I have. Right. And where my energy needs to lie. And as I grow a team to minister with me, I feel like we just need this army of moms that will start speaking into the next generation. And, you know, that as we build that, then I think that's coming.
What rewards have you received for pursuing all of this?
I just enjoy getting a private message from someone who said, I just listened to that podcast and it met me where I was. Mm-hmm. I had one lady who had listened to a podcast I'd done from a woman who ran a crisis pregnancy center. And she talked about the hope that we can have and the ability we can still serve Christ even after a difficult decision, after an abortion decision. And this woman wrote to me and she said, I have kept that secret for 20 years. I have not told anybody. But it was so encouraging to hear that God can still use me. I think I'm going to get a hold of the directors at my church and see where I can help.
Wow.
And that was like, I didn't even imagine a message like that coming to me. And then messages from moms who really, I love it when they post on the Facebook group. At first, it was me like leading questions. Hey, ladies, you want to talk? Let's talk. And then through the years, I'll just wake up at 3 a.m. as we do at the age of 50. I wake up at 3 a.m. and I see somebody has posted a prayer request at 11 p.m. and there's already 10 comments and I am just seeing it. And I'm like, wow, people are praying for other people. And it's a beautiful thing. So that encourages me to be able to network women together to minister to one another.
It amazes me how the Holy Spirit works in that regard to bring people to the content that we produce. I just had an interaction on Facebook last week from somebody who read a blog post that I had created 3 years ago, and it was really speaking to him. And it's just amazing. That's why we've got to get our voices out there, because we do, at our age, have a lot of wisdom and experiences upon which to draw that we can share to other folks.
It says something about our need to have immediate feedback, though, right? We think, yes, I need to hear right now or I'm going to quit. I haven't, nobody said anything. I wrote a blog post. Nobody said anything. I'm going to shut it down. But to think that, especially go back to that digital space, it lives on and on. And one person told me concerning my podcast, they said, you are one of heaven's appointed biographers. When you interview people, it is a verbal biography. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's the coolest thing ever. I love reading biographies, right? But in this digital age, a podcast can hold just as much content and share what God is doing and the lives that he has touched. So, yeah.
That's neat.
Pretty cool.
Do you make money off of your platform?
Oh, absolutely not.
So it is a true passion of love.
It is. And I used to make scrapbooks when my older children were young. Be like, hey, honey, can I have $50 to go buy paper and adhesive and a new scrapbook? And now I'm like, so any of the things I do, it's really come out of our family budget at this point. And again, as it grows, which it has been, and that may change. So,
do you have any regrets, or is there anything you would do over if you had the opportunity to turn the clock back?
I really wish I would have spent some more time gaining computer literacy, because that's a roadblock for me sometimes now. I wouldn't have known that before, but I graduated from high school. I worked at a summer camp, and then I became a dental assistant. None of those things required computer work. Then motherhood, again, I just really didn't need the computer for much. And so then when I was hit in this new launching opportunity, I've had to learn a lot. I've gone to the library, and our local library, they have a tech resource person, and I've sat down with him and I'm like, okay, explain to me upload and download. Explain to me how to name a file. And then after I've lost it, how do I find it? And then how do I move it? Like the basic things. I still don't know how to put the margins on a Word document or a Google Doc, but I am learning through this whole process that just because I didn't know it in the past doesn't mean that I can't learn it in the future. And so I would hope that would be an encouragement to everyone listening, is you don't have to be an expert to start, right? You just jump in and you start going forward a little incrementally. It will come to you and you will learn. You'll find the resources, and the journey to do that and connect with people is a delightful place to be.
I agree. Do you have any advice for people who are over 50 about pursuing their own passion or identifying a purpose for their lives?
I think it's really good to look at our past, like the things we've done, the things that have impacted us. And I think often our future ministry or business is a response to our own life. Like for me, it was needing someone to mentor me and encourage me in motherhood. And that became what I'm doing now. but I know somebody who is amazing at cars and he's retired. So he started this car thing and he just helps kids fix their cars. There's so many things where our history, we don't have to think has to be separate. How many, if I think about this women mentoring women thing too, how many young ladies want to learn how to crochet or knit or can or all these things? That's a skill that you maybe possess. Find a place to share that skill. And I think our relationships are richer when we can find those people.
I would agree with that. And I like that idea of the guy who is teaching younger kids how to fix their own cars. That was a staple when I was growing up. Every high school had an auto shop class. And if you were into cars, you liked that kind of thing, you went there and you learned how to do the stuff. And you don't learn that anymore. I guess you can on Google. You don't get Google certified on anything. But it's nice that you are willing to go out there and show people how to do the things that nobody really taught them. That's what mentoring is, basically, when you get down to it.
I got to tell you, there's a reverse of this too that was really neat in my story. Is after I started the website, I knew I needed to start an Instagram, but I had no idea. I was only on Instagram to stalk my grandchildren and my children, to really be a consumer and to see things, not to actually put anything out. And I didn't understand the language. This is why I say it's a digital ministry. There's different rules, there's social interactions, all the things. It's a different world. It really is. But I put out there on my Facebook, when I was interested in starting my Instagram, I said, I need to figure this out. I don't know what I'm doing. Are there any young ladies who would like to come over to my house and teach me how to do Instagram? And I believe I had 4 young mamas, and they came over. I pulled out all my baby toys and all. I had younger kids at home too. If they had children grade school age, they went outside to play with my grade schoolers. And if they were toddlers and babies, we just had them in the house with us. But these ladies sat around my dining room table and they showed me what buttons to push. They told me what different things, and we practiced. And that right there was an opportunity for them to teach me something. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity there too, in no matter what your expertise or lack of expertise is. It's a great launching off point.
That's neat. All you have to do is ask for help and you can likely find it. How can people connect with you if they'd like to follow you?
Sure. My website is tendingfields.net. My podcast is The Mom Next Door, Stories of Faith. And that Facebook group is Tending Fields Moms Group. So that probably covers it.
That should indeed. Thank you for sharing your story today, Pam. I really appreciate it. This sounds like you are very actively involved and have a passion for helping younger moms. And I can't think of a group that is more desperately in need of help in a fast-changing post-Christian society than young moms today.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. It's been really fun. I love listening to all the different facets in your interviews as well.
I love Pam Fields' passion for helping younger mothers to navigate the difficult, challenging, and often changing terrain of motherhood. Pam has discovered mothers are hungry for connection and a genuine supportive community of other moms. She interviews other mothers about their wide-ranging experiences in dealing with routine matters, as well as difficult issues like miscarriage and homeschooling challenges. She loves hearing stories about how God has stepped into the lives of other mothers to carry them through difficult situations and change their circumstances. Pam doesn't make any money from her website, podcast, or Facebook group. It is truly a passion of love in wanting to help strengthen and encourage younger women. Just knowing that other mothers are feeling the same way and struggling with the same issues has been tremendously helpful to her audience. Pam explained that nearly 9 out of every 10 mothers she talks to admit they are simply winging it through their days. But through her platform, Pam hopes to provide advice, strategies, and support to help younger mothers become rock stars in raising their own children. She is also vulnerable in admitting her own problems. For example, Pam has a few prodigal children of her own. Although Satan tells her that disqualifies her from teaching others to be better mothers, she knows God often uses imperfect people to provide support to others. Mentoring has changed Pam's life, and she encourages other people over 50 to invest in the lives of younger people as well. You can connect with Pam by visiting her website at www.tendingfields.net. From there, you can find links to the Mom Next Door podcast as well as her blog. People can connect with Pam on Facebook by looking for the Tending Fields Moms Group. That's all I have for this week's show. If you'd like help in identifying a purpose for your life or to get help with planning your next steps, I'm offering a complimentary brainstorming session to members of the Forward from 50 Facebook community. For details, connect with me on Facebook or visit www.forwardfrom50.com. I'll have another inspirational interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thanks for listening, and if you like the show, please consider leaving a review wherever you download the episodes.